Everyone has a story. Stories have power. They help us understand. Jessop's Journal is a collection of powerful, positive, and inspirational stories. It's time for Jessop's Journal.
Hi, I'm Doug Jessop. Welcome to Jessop's Journal. In this episode, I interview some folks that have powerful, positive, and inspirational stories. First up is a woman that introduces me to her friend Marty. And no, it's not Marty McFly. It's actually a guitar. And yeah, she's our musical guest.
Hit it off the bat. A lot of folks can't say that. I knew I felt something there. I hadn't in the past. Moved it fast as you. Hadn't need to get to a serious place. Make no mistake. I knew we'd hit a wall.
Most people run away from danger. Then there's a special group of people that run towards danger to help others. Fire Battalion Chief Jeffrey Thomas is one of those.
As a child, I would always hang out at the fire station, and the firefighters would routinely, be welcoming. And so early on, I realized that, I think I could do that, and I think I would excel if given an opportunity to be a firefighter.
While we're on the subject of safety, I got to suit up and got some great advice on how everyone can be a hero.
The Layton Fire Department took good care of me and helped me get all the protective gear on. I was amazed to learn that they get suited up in 45 seconds or less and get their breathing apparatus on and operating in another 45 seconds or less. Firefighter Shiloh Cromer gave me extra time. It's amazing to see what a difference fire sprinkler systems can make.
But first, SYDNIE Keddington. Can I take your guitar for you?
Will you please?
There you go. It's time to sign into Jessop's Journal.
Okay.
You and I met, geez, it's been a while. We've been on a couple, I guess you'd call them panels, judge panels or something like that for various pitch events.
Yep.
So for people out there that don't know what a pitch event is, what is a pitch event?
So it depends on the event, but most of them are just a bunch of talented entrepreneurs getting up on stage, presenting their business. And people like you and me sit on stage and judge the competition, and we'll ask hard questions.
Yeah.
We'll give them compliments on what they're doing right, just to learn a little bit more about what they're working on, and in the end kind of judge the best. Who won the pitch competition? Who
And
was the
sometimes
best?
we give them suggestions on maybe what they should fix.
We do that too.
Yeah. So I know why I'm there because I'm a media guy, but why in the world is SYDNIE there?
So I'm there to find interesting companies to invest in. So I work with an investment group called Kickstart Seed Fund in Cottonwood Heights.
Okay.
And we're always looking for new deals. So I'll attend these events to find interesting companies and then reach out and engage.
So not to be confused with Kickstarter, it's
Correct.
Kickstart, what's the name again?
Correct. It's Kickstart Fund.
Gotcha. Okay.
And we're a seed stage group.
Okay.
So early venture capital.
So from your standpoint, what are you looking for when somebody's at one of these pitch events? So if we got entrepreneurs out there watching going, hey, there's that one person. So what impresses you? What do you look for?
So we look for a lot of things, but I think one of the main things we look for is we kind of pay attention to who the founders are and what the team is like. And so we want to see teams that are scrappy, that are doing a lot with a little, capital efficient, passionate about solving a problem. And then obviously on the product side, having some product market fit. You know, how good of a fit is this company with the founder operating it? So founder opportunity fit, and kind of where are they at in terms of traction. And traction looks different for different types of companies and business models. So sometimes we're looking for revenue.
How in the world did you get into the finance side of things?
It's a good question. So I I graduated high school, was trying to kind of navigate where I wanted to land career-wise. I play music on the side. And so for a while I was thinking, do I want to pursue music full-time? And ultimately decided I wanted to pursue a path that was a little more intellectually engaging, just kind of it stretched me and challenged me in new ways. And so I started school, I thought that I wanted to do anything but finance or accounting, but I'd never taken it, which is hilarious.
I know what you mean. Okay.
It just sounded bland, it sounded boring, and so I was like, I checked those two off the list, or took them off the list. And then one thing led to another. I decided to study business. I took a couple kind of required classes and realized I actually really enjoyed it. Worked a part of my brain that was fun for me. And so I, long story short, wound up being put in touch with somebody who was a part of a student-run VC group.
Wow.
So just students investing in students. And that was called Campus Founders Fund. It's a $500,000 fund, totally autonomously run by students in Utah. So from University of Utah, BYU, U of U. So I joined that group. I was on it for a couple of years until I graduated. Really enjoyed working in venture capital. I had no idea what venture capital was prior to joining. And then it turns out, so Kickstart, the company I work for now, powers the Campus Founders Fund. And so I got to know the Kickstart team through that student fund.
The connection.
And then graduated, went and worked for a consulting firm for a bit, and then wound up joining Kickstart full-time later.
Well done. Virtual fist bump. Okay,
there we
there you go. So you talked about growing up. So where did you grow up?
So I grew up kind of all over. I actually moved a lot as a kid, but I consider Eastern Pennsylvania home.
Pennsylvania to Utah, I mean, how'd you get there? Don't say train, plane, or automobile.
Doesn't everybody just move across the country once they graduate? Isn't that
no
normal?
Problem.
So I've got some family in Utah, and I would visit as a kid occasionally, and just have always been in love with the mountains. And I just always thought I'd wind up in Utah. So I graduated, went to Penn State for a couple semesters, and then transferred out here.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I noticed that we have another guest over here, okay? And you want to introduce us, pick him up, introduce us to your friend there.
So this is my beautiful Martin guitar.
Okay.
Unofficially named Marty, as we've discussed.
Hey Marty, how you doing, buddy?
Really creative with naming. So, yeah, this is my baby.
So where is the Martin Guitar Factory?
So the Martin Guitar Factory is in Nazareth, Pennsylvania.
Gosh, surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise. It's 30 minutes from my house.
Wow.
Which is amazing. So I would play shows occasionally in high school, and once I graduated, met somebody at one of my shows who worked for Martin Guitar.
Oh, wow.
And I have a few different kind of connections with the company, and so got a good deal. Really grateful for that.
Yeah, very cool. How long have you had Marty?
Oh my gosh. Well, let's see. You can see the wear and tear down here. It's been about 10 years.
When was the first time you remember singing, or with a guitar? Did you take guitar lessons, or did you just kind of learn it, or how?
Singing, so just singing, I don't remember the first time I sang, because I've been doing it since I could walk.
Okay.
But with guitar, I started in middle school, and I actually grew up playing classical violin.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So my mom is a classical violinist, and her parents are both classical violinists. It runs very deep in the family, and
go mom and go grandma.
Go mom, go grandma.
Sweet.
So I think that there was violin is a very technical instrument, especially classically speaking, and so I think there was a lot of transfer from technique, in terms of technique, from violin to guitar.
So now, obviously I know you're a singer, okay, but a little birdie, Marty kind of told me on the side that you are also a songwriter. There's this one song, there's a phrase that denotes 6 years, okay? Was that just a rhyme, or is there something really behind that?
It's, I would say it's a combination of personal and observational, which is kind of how I tend to songwrite. So I'll take bits and pieces of what I've experienced and what I've seen other people experience that are close to me, or what I can imagine somebody experiencing, and throw together a song and hope it resonates with somebody.
Okay, Marty, just asking, can you ask Sydney to see if you guys can play together a little bit, a little snippet of that song? Could you please?
And I'll tell you a little bit about what it's about, just so you have the preface. So, I think a lot of relationships end in bitterness and resentment and anger, and I think that's tragic, because most relationships start with two people loving each other, or at least thinking they do. And so this is a song about two people who loved each other enough to walk away, and the love doesn't go away and the memories don't go away. Things just look a little different.
6 years later, I've been walking alone. better than I've been so damn long. And every day's a better day, but most days at the end of the day I miss laughing hard, we're so in love, talking about things we've been dreaming of. The past looks better than it really was. Well, I'm just missing you.
SYDNIE Keddington, how do you want to leave your mark?
I think the way I'd answer that is not letting life happen to you, being intentional, knowing what you stand for, what your values are, and living by those values.
Mm-hmm. Very well said.
So authenticity
Yeah.
is key.
Well, SYDNIE, thank you so much for sharing your gift of music and your knowledge about all the finance stuff. It's been fun visiting with you at various events, and I have to admit, I looked on social media and I'm going, SYDNIE has been holding out on me. I had no idea you were a singer. It's like, wow. And you're not just an average singer. You're pretty dang good. So
I
well
appreciate
done.
that.
You know I'm now your agent, right?
You're, obviously.
Okay, we have this on camera.
This is on
We know
camera.
we're
It's
agent?
recorded.
Okay, very cool.
Doug's my agent.
One of my favorite inspirational quotes is from Audrey Hepburn. She said, "To plant a garden is to believe in tomorrow."
Everyone has a story, and sometimes those stories are told through music. It's time for Jessop's Jukebox. Sometimes you love each other enough to part ways. The love doesn't go away, the memories don't go away, but it does look different. So ladies and gentlemen, with the debut of her song, 6 Years, here's SYDNIE Keddington.
Hit it off the bat. A lot of folks can't say that. I knew I felt something there. I hadn't in the past. We moved it fast, fast as you. Hadn't need to get to a serious place, make no mistake. I knew we'd hit a wall. And Lord knows I tried, I really did. We meant well, I guess I should've known. 6 years later, I've been walking alone, better than I've been in so damn long. And every day's a better day, but most days at the end of the day I miss laughing hard and making love and talking about things we've been dreaming of. The past looks better than it really was. Well, I'm just missing you. Here we are, what's done is done. I'm not placing blame. You take yours and I take mine. Here's the thing, 6 years later I've been walking alone, better than I've been in so damn long. And every day's a better day, but most days at the end of the day I miss laughing hard and making love and talking about things we've been dreaming of. The past looks better than it really does. I'm just missing you. Looking back on life with you wouldn't change a thing. Love's love, does what it does, it won't wait on me. Truth be told, I needed you. It hurts to think about, but it's worth the wait got now. Well, 6 years later, I'm walking alone, better than I've been in so damn long. And as the days go by, I hold in my heart the 6 years that taught me the art of laughing hard and making love and talking about dreams and being proud of the stuff that makes you who you are. Man, and I'm so proud of who we are. I'll keep on loving you.
You know, you're probably familiar with that picture. It's the golden spike picture, you know, the one where the meeting of the rails. This hat is a replica of one of those hats. I call it the Senator. Okay, for this next story, I need you to play along with me for a minute, okay? Imagine that we're going to take away your sight, okay? Now I'm going to take away your smell. Now we're going to put fire all around you. That's what firefighters deal with on a regular basis. Chief Thomas, thanks for coming. It's time to sign into Jessop's Journal. In this episode of Jessop's Journal, I have Jeffrey James Thomas, or actually I should call you Chief. Actually, not even Chief, Battalion Chief Jeffrey James Thomas.
Well, you can just call me Jeff.
Jeff, okay.
Exactly.
Now, we kind of teased a little bit in there, and you and I talked earlier, and you were a man of stature, you were an imposing figure. And there was a little phrase that you and I talked about earlier saying gladiator. Call yourself a gladiator.
I'm currently a gladiator in the arena of the firefighting world, but back in the day, as we were discussing earlier, I arrived in Salt Lake City many years ago to perform as a gladiator in the Coliseum of the University of Utah playing football. So, I mean, I liken it to the Roman Coliseum because, you know, you have the gladiators out there battling, and that's what we were doing. And now I battle for the city of Salt Lake.
So what position did you play when you were in football?
I played tight end at the University of Utah many years ago, and I've got the battle scars and bad knees to be thankful and grateful for.
Oh yeah, well, you know, I always say life does come with scars, you know. How in the world does a kid go from being a football player to a firefighter?
Now, that's an interesting story, Doug. I actually followed in my brother's footsteps.
Oh really?
Yeah, he retired as one of the top-ranking chief officers out of the city of San Jose, California, and one day I was back home visiting him, and at the time, he was, his wife was a stay-at-home mom, and he was working hard. He had a side job, and I thought, you know, with the hours that he's putting in versus the hours I'm putting in, I think this is something that I can do. As a child, I would always hang out at the fire station, and the firefighters would routinely, be welcoming, and so early on, I realized that, I think I could do that. And I think I would excel if given an opportunity to be a firefighter. And I really like to serve the community and be in a place where the young people and the young kids in the community can see me. And it's been a very rewarding career.
So how long have you been a firefighter?
You know, I've been a firefighter since 1987. So, yeah, I've been at it for 33 years, going on 34, so it's been for a minute or two.
Well, thank you for your service.
Well, thank you.
Jeff, it seems to me like you're in a field where you got to be a little, I guess, wired a little differently is the polite way to put it, because you're going towards danger instead of away from danger. Do you remember the first fire that you actually, participated in?
I can remember the first, what we call working fire, where we know that this is going to require a great deal of resources to deal with it. And I remember it vividly. It was just a few blocks south and east of here. It was a basement fire in which I was the nozzleman. I'm the first person through the door. Smoke-filled basement. We enter the basement doing what's called a left-hand search. Either you're going to go right or you're going to go left. You're going to grab a wall and try and follow that wall and maneuver around the obstacles as you proceed. And eventually I came to a 5x5 opening, like a box, right? A tunnel. So we proceeded down that tunnel because I could see the orange glow at the end of the tunnel. We sprayed for a while and it was still glowing. So we proceeded towards what we call the objective. I want to get closer to the seat of the fire. So me and two other guys behind me, we start proceeding down that tunnel in the basement of this apartment house, and we continue to spray, and next thing you know, I hear the muffled sounds of someone behind me, and remember, it's a 5x5 box. I'm on my hands and knees, and I'm able to turn just enough to see the glow behind us. So the fire had actually started behind us where we thought it was already out, and so I released the nozzle so the guy behind us could put it out. We ended up backing out through the fire, and that was my first experience, confined space and being in a precarious position.
So apparently you're not claustrophobic.
Actually, I am a little claustrophobic,
really?
But you know, we go through a great deal of training, and the fire service gets you ready for whatever you're going to face.
A little birdie told me that Jeffrey James Thomas is also an actor. So tell me about that.
You know, I've started my acting career in the state of Utah all by happenstance. You know, it's a small black community. A friend of mine, B. Murphy, he famously would sing at the jazz games and such. And he approached me and he says, you know, Carl Malone needs some extras to help him with his new launch of his LA Gear tennis shoes.
Really?
And so, you know, I'm working several side jobs at the time, and I asked, well, how much does it pay? And when he gave me the amount that the company was going to be paying, I thought, I could probably do this.
Did they pay you in tennis shoes?
No, no, they did not.
Did you get any of them?
I didn't get any shoes,
man.
but the work was fairly easy, and the pay was really, really, you know, agreeable to me. So that's how I started, and shortly thereafter, I got an agent. I did 2 extra jobs, and after that, I told my agent, you know, I don't think I want to do any more extra work, but I would be interested in some on-film talent stuff. And from that point forward, I've been acting in this market now for over 25 years and had some great opportunities.
Have you ever been cast as a firefighter?
You know, I have not. I've been cast as a police officer several times. But never as a, and I've auditioned for the role of the firefighter.
I'm just saying, you know, tell them you got the uniform, okay?
Yeah, right, and I think I know the lingo.
Yeah, exactly, wow. Is there any particular thing that a homeowner can do to help keep their lives and their property safe?
Absolutely. But I think that the thing that you can do to prepare your family the most is to have the conversation, right? Have a difficult conversation, have an escape plan in place, and really just plan, right? Think, plan, and act. Talk about what are we going to do in the event of a fire? How do we get out of the house? Do we have gathering places established? Have you considered, you know, having to live outside of your home environment for over 72 hours? I mean, Katrina taught us that it may take a while for the cavalry to arrive, and if you think about New Orleans and where that took place, they were surrounded by resources. Whereas Salt Lake City being kind of the gateway to the west, it could be a while before the cavalry arrives. So I used to tell my students, okay, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. We just got fresh coat of snow outside, 10 inches of snow out on the lawn, and your house starts shaking violently. Now you have to get out with whatever you went to bed wearing, and now you're standing out in the snow, all the power's out in the neighborhood, and you look up and down, you realize, man, a lot of my neighbors managed to get out, and that's a beautiful thing. But in the meantime, you're standing in, you know, 8 or 10 inches of snow. You look back at your house, and unreinforced masonry, it's crumbled, it's ready to collapse. It's about that time when the youngest child in the family looks up at you and says, Daddy, I'm cold. What are you prepared to do? Are you prepared to live outside of that environment based on, you know, your plan or not? So disaster emergency planning for me is one of the biggest things I think, or biggest takeaway that I would want everyone to consider in this interview is that, man, it is up to you. I mean, your life depends on your planning in this environment.
The question that I ask everybody is, and let me get into my broadcaster voice. Okay. Battalion Chief Jeffrey James Thomas, how do you want to leave your mark?
You know, it's a difficult question that I ponder. I mean, there's so many things that I would like to say, but I guess the mark that I want to leave is that I left this place better than I found it, and that I was able to raise 3 great citizens in our community, my children, my grandchildren. My family is my greatest legacy. Regardless of anything else I've done in this world, I believe that the human beings that I leave behind is my greatest treasure and joy.
Well said and agreed.
Life is never boring. Sometimes you have something I like to call the wonderful world of regret. If you've ever had a tattoo or permanent makeup that you've fallen out of love with, the folks at Tattoo Away have come up with a pretty cool system that literally removes the ink out of the skin. Not every hero wears a cape. When it comes to fire safety, you can be a hero if you have an escape plan and preventative measures.
Layton in North Davis County is full of heroes. Jason Cook, Battalion Chief at the Layton Fire Department, wants to remind people that when it comes to fire safety, you can be a hero by having an escape plan and taking preventative measures.
Smoke detectors throughout, and because notification and getting people out of the home is always going to be our #1 priority.
Do you know how most home fires start?
Cooking fires.
What should you do?
Everybody's inclination is to put water on a fire, when in fact the very best thing, especially in that circumstance, we can do is smother the fire. So a simple little thing like taking a pot cover and covering the fire safely, sliding across over where whatever may be burning, will quickly extinguish the fire in a matter of seconds.
What can you do to put me to work?
I think we should suit you up and have you go fight some fire with us tonight.
The Layton Fire Department took good care of me and helped me get all the protective gear on. I was amazed to learn that they get suited up in 45 seconds or less and get their breathing apparatus on and operating in another 45 seconds or less. Firefighter Shiloh Cromer gave me extra time. It's amazing to see what a difference fire sprinkler systems can make. I got to be part of the demonstration.
This one on the right is going to burn for 4 to 6 minutes, the average national response time, versus if we see a sprinkler system, there's very moderate damage to the structure.
It's a phrase I use at my house, don't forget to breathe. Well, if life gets a little crazy and you've got dust, you got pollen, and hey, let's think about smoke, I like to use clear nasal spray. Why? Because it washes away the bacteria and helps me breathe better. So come on, join with me. You know you want to do it. Take a deep breath and breathe. Thanks for watching this episode of Jessop's Journal. It's my honor to be able to share powerful, positive, and inspirational stories every week right here on TV, as well as jessopsjournal.com. Everyone has a story. Stories have power. They help us understand each other. With another entry into Jessop's Journal, I'm Doug Jessop.